the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Instead of being buried or cremated, Wayne had chosen a relatively new alternative: natural organic reduction, more simply known as human composting. It's a natural process that transforms the body into soil. That process happened here at Recompose in Seattle, the first human composting facility in the country. Katrina Spade is the founder and CEO. She showed us the space where families can hold a memorial service as their loved one is covered with organic plant material such as straw and wood chips.
It's the Drew Mariani Show on Relevant Radio.
Is that not crazy, right? Georgia has become the 13th state to legalize terramation starting in July. Remains are covered in organic material, put in a special chamber, some touted as being eco-friendly, and others, have health and religious concerns about it. So rather than being burned or embalmed or interned, some Americans now are pushing to be laid to rest using alternative burial methods. This one's called human composting or terramation. I want to talk about it all with you today. Maybe you have your parents' ashes or your loved one's ashes there on the shelf at home, and should they be buried in hallowed ground? What does the church teach regarding all of this? I'm joined today by Father Pacholczyk. He serves as a senior ethicist at the National Catholic Bioethics Center in Philadelphia, one of my favorites. Check him out at his website, fathertad.com. And you can check him also out at ncbcenter.org. Hey, Padre, welcome back. Good to have you with me.
Thanks, Drew. Always good to join you.
Let's talk about alternative burial practices and how the church views them. I mean, we've got our traditional burial practices. What are the theological implications or concerns or maybe requirements? Maybe that's a better way of me approaching it for Christian burial. I mean, what's church want us to do?
Well, by encouraging the faithful to bury the bodies of those who have died, I would say the church confirms her faith in the resurrection of the body. And, that is important as a kind of message. And then also it accords or shows respect and dignity for the human body itself. It points out the fact that the body is part of the human person. It's destined for resurrection, so that the body is not something incidental or off to the side, but forms a part of the identity of who we are. So according respect to human remains is something that, we have always insisted on, I would say not just as church, but as a culture more broadly. If you hear about people who, go into a graveyard and dig up somebody's body and start putting pieces of the body in different places, disrespecting that body, we all have a sense of revulsion about that. It's like, no, we have to accord the respect that is due to human remains. So I think the question you're raising here more broadly is what types of handling of the body after somebody dies is going to accord that type of respect and not send any erroneous ideas about death, about the value of the body, or about the future resurrection.
Speaking about burial, do we need to be buried in hallowed ground? Like a church ground that has been blessed. I know there's some people's loved ones are not. What does the church require about hallowed ground?
Well, the church encourages that there be a specific place chosen, and typically this would be hallowed ground. It would be a cemetery, a dedicated space, and this allows for the family to go and pray at that spot. And it's a place that is, geographical. It's a specific demarcation of where the mortal remains of this individual can be found, and connects us then with our beloved departed. And I think that's something the church, very much esteems. Now, it can't always be that way. I sometimes remind people of, the many sad cases of individuals who were burned in Auschwitz, and their remains just went up the chimneys, and spread all over different parts of Europe. That wasn't possible to do that. Or sometimes you have a burial at sea that, has to be done due to circumstances. And So it's not always possible, but to the extent that we have some say and control over the circumstances of handling the remains of our loved ones, yes, it's definitely the thinking of the church and a preferred choice to assure a geographical location in hallowed ground, in a cemetery or columbarium or some other setting whereby you can go and pray for that individual.
All right, let me jump to Matt in Minneapolis. He's got a question for you. Matt, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Drew. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So I'm married. I'm Catholic. My wife's Catholic. And she wants to get cremated. And I thought the Catholic faith believed that you cannot be cremated or ashes spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the church does allow for cremation, but, maybe I'll just point out something here that I think a lot of Catholics are not aware of. And Matt, maybe this would be of some interest to you in your discussions with your wife. The church generally prefers and encourages that when there is a funeral mass, even if you're planning to cremate the individual, it's preferable to have the body present at church for that funeral mass, for that final mass.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and then, it's okay to take the body and allow for cremation, and then the cremains become available. Those should not be retained, for example, at home. They should not be scattered abroad. They need to be interred in hallowed ground, in a cemetery, in a family plot, and in a specific geographical location so that one can go and pray at the remains of that individual with those ashes now interred. So that's the, general approach of the church here. And I think that there's powerful symbolism when you have that funeral mass and the body is right there. I myself, in dealing with certain family members, have had struggles over this where they say, well, he said before he died he just wanted to be cremated. And I said, okay, well, we'll honor that request, but let's first bring his full body in and have the mass. And this turned out to be helpful, in some cases I've dealt with where, for example, a father of the family is dying and then dies, and then you have the body there, and some of his sons are pallbearers. They carry his body. Meanwhile, if it comes in just in a little urn, the whole symbolism again gets lost there. So there's a lot to be encouraged, I think, in terms of doing it in that manner.
Matt, you might want to have a conversation with your wife over that. Maybe she'll be open to that.
Yeah, definitly. Thank you. I appreciate the information.
You got it. I mean, there's something about the optics of it as well. To your point, Father, and carrying your loved one and having them at Mass, then going ahead and I know cremation, burials become so expensive. It's part of the problem for a lot of people. Some people may want to bury their loved ones, but the cost of the casket, the cost of all these things that go into it can be prohibitive. And cremation has become today, I think, a more affordable option for some people. So that might be the reason people tack in that direction.
Yes, I think you're right, Drew. What I find very kind of distressing is how many people are then using the cremains afterwards in ways that they shouldn't, whether it's being distributed. I sometimes tell the story of a pilot friend of mine who had an urn full of cremains, and somebody had, hired him to take them up and they were going to distribute the cremains over the ocean. And the pilot said, look, whatever you do, don't open the urn. Just take the whole urn and throw it out into the ocean, sealed. Well, this person had their own plans. They opened it, as the side of the plane was open, and the cremains went all over the inside of the plane, into the instruments, into the hair of the pilot, and you just say, is this showing respect for the remains of the dead? Of course not. But people have their own ideas, and they're wedded to the ideas, and they will sometimes cling to those ideas with an avidity that is, really disturbing. I think the church is calling for a kind of acceptance of, the final reality here that this person is deceased, we must let them go, and we should do it with a certain decorum and protocol that respects their remains.
Sarah's in Wilmington, North Carolina, and she has some cremains of her grandmother, I believe. Sarah, good afternoon.
Hi, Drew. Thank you so much for taking my call. I absolutely love your show.
Thank you.
I am a convert to the Catholic faith about 2 years ago, 2 Easters ago, and my family is not Catholic and they're not Christian. My grandmother died and they had a memorial for her, and at the memorial they gave away like portions of her ashes. And about 10 years ago, my grandfather also passed away, and same thing, they had given away portions of my grandfather's ashes. So I still have these ashes, but I know it's not the right thing, and I'm not sure what to do at this point.
Yeah.
I did talk to our local parish priest, and so I was looking into the columbarium, but it's a little bit out of our price range right now. My grandmother was not Catholic, so I don't know what to do at this point, if I should return the ashes so that they're all together. But, I mean, I only have a portion of them, so other family members have other portions, and it's definitely weighing on me that I need to find the right thing to do. So when I heard this was the topic of the call, I was like, I have to find out what they say.
Well, I'm glad you got through today, and you're probably not alone. There's probably a lot of other families who say, oh, my gosh, we're in the same situation. Father, what advice would you give to her?
Yeah, well, Sarah, first, congratulations on coming into the church. That's just wonderful.
Thank you.
Just great to hear. And I think you have the right sense about this. You're concerned about your grandmother's remains. You may or you may not be able to do very much in the face of your family. But I would say if you have some openness on the part of the family, ask whether they would mind returning the ashes so you could get them all together again. And then the question would become, is there a family plot anywhere? I mean, you said the columbarium is too expensive to specifically get one, but, is there a family plot in the ground somewhere that the urn could be placed into? And, sometimes there's a family plot where you have the body buried in a full casket, but then the funeral, the people who handle the cemetery, they will say to you, oh, you can put 2 or maybe 3 urns above the casket still under the earth. And, they will allow for that as part of the family plot. So it's just a question of, having a dialogue with whoever is running the cemetery and see whether it's possible to do that. And if your family doesn't have anything like that yet, then I guess my advice would be, well, hold on to the remains of your grandmother until such time as there is a plot, that somebody in your family dies, and then at that point, be sure that her remains are respectfully interred. Okay.
And because she was not Catholic, I guess as long as it's holy burial ground, correct? Like in terms of the burial ground?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I would say as long as it's a genuine cemetery of some sort, even if it's not Catholic, it's clearly better to have your grandmother in the ground, in a specific place and not sort of floating among multiple family members in who knows what kinds of different containers and so on. Yes, so that would make sense to make those types of arrangements if your family's open to it. As I say, some families are not, and they'll be they'll dig in their heels, and it's unfortunate, but I think you have an opportunity at least to open up a dialogue with them.
Hey, Sarah, thanks.
Okay. And if they were not open to returning in the ashes, the portion that I have, I could bury, and inter that into. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
You definitely
so
could do
much.
that, and I think it would make sense to do that with the portion that you have.
Well, Father, I hope people will check out your work. FatherTad.com, the best place to get all those articles you spoke about?
ncbcenter.org.
Hey, Father, thank you for being here. We'll have to revisit it. I mean, there's a ton of people who still want to join the conversation, but I got to leave it right there. I do want to get everyone plugged into something else that could really benefit them as well. Relevant's got an app. It's called Catholic Legacy. Go and check it out, CatholicLegacy.com. It'll help you with end-of-life directives. And I think it's so critical. If you're ever in an accident or something happens to you, this will really help guide you in making the right decisions. It's a very simple, it'll walk you step by step. You'll answer questions that it poses to you. It'll also help you prepare your funeral. You can say, hey, I don't want to be cremated before the Mass. Maybe you're going to be cremated. Say, I'd like my body there. I'd like to, you can go through all of these things. It'll even help you lay out your funeral Mass. I'm telling you, it is absolutely fantastic. It's totally free. No strings attached whatsoever. And there's a third component to it. A lot of people love this the most because they get a free will out of it. You can go in and you can do your will. That's one module. You could do the end of life directives, medical directives, or you could do you can do your funeral or do all three. Check it out. Maybe over the weekend or maybe tonight, if you got some downtime, just go through it. You'll be glad you did. Absolutely, totally free, and it's just a service that Relevant wants to make available to you. Hey, like what you just heard? Then share it with your family and friends. And thanks for listening.